That would have been bad.
Welcome back to The Backmarkers, the F1 podcast for new fans, by new fans. My name is Mike Hurley, and I'm joined by Austin Evans. Hi, Austin.
Hello. It is very strange to be recording on a Wednesday. We're not straight off the adrenaline and the excitement of a race. We've got some time to digest, to consider not only the race, but the last, 3 weeks of insane silly season nonsense?
We're a bit rusty from the silly season, I think. We've had the summer break, and that's kind of messed us up. But we're back. We're doing it. We're here.
It has been very, very exciting. It's funny because I feel like we recorded right after the final race before the summer break.
The Hungarian Grand Prix.
I swear, maybe 10 minutes after the race finished, everything just exploded. It was absolutely unreal. I mean, where do we even start?
We start with something else. We start with an important message before we get into silly season, all right? Got something important to talk about. So September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. For the 4th consecutive year, the Relay FM community is rallying together to support the life-saving mission of St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, finding cures and saving children. Since opening its doors in 1962, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital has grown in size and capabilities for one special reason. They believe that children all over the world deserve the same chance at survival. Treatments developed at St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital have helped increase the overall childhood cancer survival rate from 20% to more than 80%. While tremendous strides have been made, 1 in 5 children diagnosed in the US will not survive. And globally, these numbers are shockingly reversed, with 4 in 5 children in some developing countries not surviving of childhood cancer. Limited access to high-quality, affordable medicines and the financial burden of research and care are hallmarks of the childhood cancer challenge that many countries face. We have been supporting St. Jude for many years here at Relay FM. We were talking about this on our previous show, The Test Drivers. Austin's been on one of our podcast-a-thon streams. We're doing an 8-hour podcast-a-thon stream, September 16th, the 4th annual. Me and Steven back together in Memphis. 12 to 8 p.m. US Eastern Time. But what I want the Backmarkers listeners to do is go to stjude.org/relay, where you can do a couple of things. You can find out more about why we do this. You can donate some money to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. You can also sign up to fundraise yourself. So we have some incentives that we're giving away for people that do this. If you raise $1 or more, you'll receive an exclusive St. Jude limited edition of a Relay FM Challenge coin. If you raise $250 or more, we have a very unique desk mat of mine and Steven's cartoon heads. It's bananas. I will have mine, I think, for our next stream. I'll be able to show it off while we record. So go to stjude.org/relay to donate, to find out more about fundraising, and to find out more about why St. Jude is so important. Let's cure childhood cancer together.
Terrific, man. I'm not going to lie. I always love the launch of when the whole month begins, you guys start hyping it. And I always get really excited for the podcast-a-thon. That's always my favorite. That's always where I'm getting all hyped up and the donations are going left and right. That's always my favorite part of the whole thing. So good luck. Hopefully it goes nice and smooth this year after the last couple of years.
Let's hope so. All right. Silly season. So I've been trying to keep a running tally in our show document of some of the things that have occurred since the last time we recorded. The first one, which is Sebastian Vettel retiring, feels like it happened last season at this point.
It is wild because he announced that right before the Hungarian Grand Prix, right? It was like the day or two before, which has caused a huge ripple effect, right? I don't think it's a huge surprise that Seb has decided to retire. He's done 2 seasons at Aston Martin now. I think that clearly, it has not been wildly successful. Like we spoke about last time, the environment in the team probably doesn't seem particularly great, especially considering that one of the seats is permanently anchored by one Lance Stroll. So not a huge surprise that Seb decided, you know what? I'm going to go out. I'm going to go do some environmental stuff. I'm going to do stuff that makes me happy. He's got 4 championships in the bag. He's got quite literally a bag of cash in his closet. Like, he's chilling. He's fine. But what I don't think anyone quite wrapped their heads around was how fast and how explosive that change would ripple throughout the paddock.
Yep.
So Alonso making a very bold decision immediately, really, to switch to Aston Martin.
This is interesting. So what we're going to do, I think, throughout this conversation, we're going to mix between, just because, I mean, we're both pretty plugged in, between things that are known and things that are rumored, like, and everyone's just going to have to work out on their own what part of this is, right? Now, my understanding is that Fernando was not going to get the deal that he wanted from Alpine, right? Like, he wanted a multiple-year deal. Alpine didn't want a multiple-year deal because they wanted to put Piastri in the car. But they weren't going to do it this coming year, 2023 season. So Alonso was like, screw this. I'm going to go somewhere else is the expectation, right? So he started kind of like shopping around. And it's unclear, but seems possible, that he knew Seb was going to retire. Right,
Maybe.
timeline-wise, right? Like, it doesn't, because there is this conversation, because the next part is the Oscar Piastri part, right? And so we'll just mention that. So I think actually for us to be able to talk about the rest of this, we need to first give the context for everything else. So Oscar Piastri, who's in the Alpine, was in the Alpine driver program, was their reserve driver. So he was an F2, F3, like, superstar.
Yep.
And he's Australian. And the expectation was he's going to get in there at some point, and he is like a top-tier driver. I don't know a ton about Piastri, except for the fact that he did really bad in his season with Hurley Motorsport in F1 2022. I got rid of him, by the way. I brought in Hulkenberg. Fantastic. Nico.
Good move.
Nico was brilliant for me. He's been brilliant for me. So Piastri, he was then announced by Alpine. So Alpine announced Piastri is taking Alonso's seat. Piastri woke up and said, nah, that ain't happening. And the expectation being that he was talking to McLaren about taking Daniel Ricciardo's seat. Daniel Ricciardo has now been pushed out of McLaren. He's been given a huge bag of cash and told to go on his merry way.
Yep.
So the reason I mention all of this is because I've been reading suggestions that Alonso was aware, at least, of something that was going on and was asked because of the McLaren, because of Piastri's specific situation. There is a dispute around a contract, which, as we're recording 2 days ago, there was a hearing about this contract. As we're recording, nothing has been released about whether Alpine actually do have the right to put Piastri in a seat or not, or whether he can move elsewhere. So it seems basically that, like, Alonso announcing on the exact day that he did gave the ability for Piastri, or to be Piastri's representation, to believe that the contract that he had with Alpine was no longer binding.
So, I mean, there's so much to unpack here. So the official line, the way I understand it, is that Aston did not know that Seb was going to bail. They expected him, they wanted him to stay, and he gave them very late notice. So supposedly, again, if you believe that everything was on the up and up, supposedly from the second that Seb announced that to the time that Alonso was able to sign was only like 3 or 4 days. So it was over the weekend. Like, Alpine had no idea that Alonso was leaving. Supposedly Aston Martin really didn't know that Seb was leaving, and Alonso immediately grabbed that opportunity because, like you said, what Alonso was looking at probably a 1-year extension and then kind of a retirement in like sports car racing or whatever, which I don't think is really what he wanted. He has been operating at a very high level, didn't want to really kind of get pushed out. Whereas on the Aston Martin side, they lose Seb, they immediately go to Alonso and go, hey, you know what? We need you. We'll give you a 2 or 3 year contract. It's unclear, but I know it's at least multiple years. And basically, I'm sure a fat pile of cash to come in and to be, at the very least, a Seb replacement, if not potentially an upgrade over what Seb is sort of delivering for the team. So you can see why that's very tempting for Alonso.
Yep.
But then Alpine are like, oh no, we lost Alonso. What's going on? They bring Piastri in, and Piastri's like, absolutely not. Because on the other side of this, and this is a little bit more into rumor town, but Piastri has been the reserve driver for Alpine this year. So, you know, he's doing all the testing and the simulator work and whatnot. And supposedly his contract was that if Alpine did not get him into a race seat, like signed into a race seat by, I believe it was August 1st, supposedly. Again, we don't actually know the contract, but supposedly then he would be a free agent.
And that
But
didn't
no one
have
really
to be an
expected it.
Alpine seat, right? They could have just helped
Exactly.
him get in any car.
Yes. And the heavy rumor was that he was going to take Latifi's seat at Williams, which you can understand why he was maybe not thrilled about that particular opportunity. So him and his management team kind of doing some skullduggery in the
Mark Webber,
background,
right, is his agent?
which I am mostly confident, I'm not entirely confident, but I have heard that Mark Webber is also Daniel Ricciardo's agent, which little sauce. Don't quote me on that, but I've heard people say that, so I'm not 100% positive. But
That's not
you
the
can
guy who
imagine-
was in Drive to Survive. Like, Daniel Ricciardo had an agent in Drive to Survive, and it wasn't that guy, so I don't know.
Yeah, so I could be completely wrong on that, but I do know that Mark Webber is Piastri's agent. So regardless, a lot of shenanigans going on behind the scenes. But essentially where we're at right now is exactly that. Piastri is nebulously driving for someone, although clearly not Alpine at this point. Seems pretty clear, because I feel like the best Alpine could hope for is to try to get, some money out of Piastri or whatever team he goes for or whatever, because it seems like they from what we've seen, there's a pretty ironclad case that Piastri can get out of his contract. The contract recognition board kind of initially said that it was chill. McLaren clearly dropped Ricciardo. I don't think they were going to do that if they did not have a very strong inclination that they had a line on Piastri. Yeah.
I think that Piastri's going to go to McLaren. And maybe Alpine believe this, but I think Alpine want to be compensated, and I believe should be. Like, I think it's a bad precedent to set up the junior programs to be treated this way.
Yeah.
Right? Where, like, I'm not saying that that Piastri did something bad here, but I think that if this kind of stuff's going to occur, the team that now benefit from that junior deserves to pay to that other team at least something to try and compensate that time when something like this occurs, because Alpine would like to offer him the seat now. He doesn't want it, which is fine. That's his decision. But I think if he is now going to take his efforts and go somewhere else, this should now be a negotiation between the teams for some kind of compensation. I think this is different to a little bit like so Mick Schumacher is rumored now to be departing the Ferrari driver program.
Yep. Which would theoretically make him a free agent starting next year, because he is not signed up to Haas for next year. So they have at least one vacancy. And while Haas had a little bit of a glimmer of hope toward the beginning of the year, has quickly been sort of swallowed up by the rest of the field with the fact that they haven't really developed their car that much. So,
and I think the difference there with Mick is Ferrari are not putting him in a car for a really long time, if ever.
Yes.
And I think that's different with what's going on with Piastri. And if Piastri's contract allows him to get out, then great. Like, he should go ahead and do that.
World.
But I do think that in that situation, considering that Alpine would like to make good on the agreement, I think that McLaren should then be going here's $3 million. Thanks very much. Right?
Yeah. Because, you understand that, Alpine have spent an enormous amount of money investing in Piastri over the years, which, that's the way that most junior drivers come up. They sort of get signed to a driver academy or whatever. They're getting all this sort of experience, they're getting seat time and cars.
And the teams do it so they can lock those people in, right?
Yes, absolutely. But you got to imagine that while this is all very messy right now, I will be shocked if Piastri does not have the McLaren seat next year.
Definitely.
Yeah, and whatever nonsense needs to be paid behind the scenes or whatever the case is. But what that's also left, so, we know that the Aston Martin lineup is Alonso and is Lance, which for a minute, it seemed like they were kind of going to argue about it a little bit, and then okay, whatever, because this kind of immediately took priority. It seems like Piastri and Lando are going to be at McLaren, but that leaves a couple of big holes. So one of which is, of course, at Alpine, which, looking at the way that Alpine have been this year, that's a really very, very solid seat, And there've been a little bit of rumors that maybe they're going to try to bring Ricciardo back or whatever, since he did spend a couple of seasons at Renault, which was, of course, Alpine's sort of predecessor team. But there's also some crazy stuff. Like I've heard a lot of rumors that Alpine is trying very hard to get Pierre Gasly out of his contract, and as soon as you start busting contracts like that and start paying, like this could potentially get much, much more ridiculous and crazy because we've got that. We've also got the Haas seat, which could be up for grabs, and very likely. We've got the Williams seat of Latifi is almost certainly up for grabs. So I don't think we've heard the last of this silly season, but just the last month has been incredibly exciting. And like just seeing the Piastri tweet of "I will not be driving for Alpine" was just
So
like,
good.
what?
It was so good. It was such a great day on F1 Twitter. Like, because then was it like the next day when Albon did like a tweet in the same vein of like, I can confirm I will be, because he did actually re-sign at Williams, which I'm really happy about because he's having a great little run at the moment. He had a great race this weekend. Question for you then.
Yep.
Because there's still one more thing we've got to get to, which is not driver related, but I want to talk about Daniel Ricciardo.
Yeah.
Do you think Daniel Ricciardo is in F1 in 2023?
I mean, that's the question, isn't it? I think yes.
Okay.
If he is really serious, so he said something like, they've already announced officially that he's leaving McLaren, and he said something to the effect of like, oh, I want to get through this triple header. I don't want to make a rash, emotional decision. I want to make sure, my head's right. But he has made it very clear that his strong preference is to remain in Formula One, which fair enough, right? He's had a rough couple of years, but there's still certainly flashes of greatness. I think he would be a good fit for either the Williams or the Haas seat. I do think that is really his only option at this point. I don't see anything else. Alpine is an outside shot. If they really can't get someone else, and again, it's not really clear exactly who they would pull, but I mean, for all I know, Alpine might want Schumacher instead because they've already had time with Danny Rick. He left. It was kind of under less than ideal circumstances. My gut is that yes, but I think he's going to end up at one of the bottom teams. What do you think? Is he here? Is he going to take a year off? Because he is free. He did say he is free to race next year. So with the McLaren whole payoff situation.
I'm not convinced he'll have a seat next year.
Yeah.
If he does, I think it's Haas. And I actually think Haas might be his only option, realistically. Because Williams have this guy, what is his name? I can't remember his name. He's in F2 right now, and he's doing really good.
Oh, Sargent.
And he's in Logan Sargent, right?
Yeah.
He is in Williams' driver program.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said for like, hey, why don't we actually try and build our own talent instead of needing to get people on loan or whatever? So I think that might be where Williams will go. I think Haas might benefit. Honestly, Kevin Magnussen, Daniel Ricciardo, that's a pretty good lineup for Haas, right? Like,
I agree.
I think that could be really interesting. I think Alpine, I don't really get the Pierre Gasly thing, honestly. Like, I know how great... No, I know... Okay, obviously I understand how happy they would be to have a French team with two French drivers. I just cannot imagine under any circumstances Red Bull being cool with that.
Well, you say that, but clearly Pierre does not really have a great future with the team.
But then who goes in next year in AlphaTauri? They haven't even confirmed Yuki yet.
That is true. And they have some juniors. I don't know if anyone is really ready. So, look, I know that they're not going to be excited about it. But I also don't think it's the world's craziest idea. I really don't. Because it's one of those things where a big enough check
Red
will
Bull,
solve a lot of problems.
Do they need that? They don't need that.
But the thing is, they don't really need... Like, AlphaTauri is their sister team, but it's like clearly their junior, like sort of B squad team, right? If they can get a giant fat pile of cash and just throw another junior in there to give them a try for a year, why wouldn't they do it? They know that they're going to lose Pierre next year anyway, right? So it's just like... Is having Pierre for 1 year versus no years at all really worth that much if Alpine are willing to write such a big check to take him? Obviously, this is pure speculation. We have no idea. But
like if they want a junior that bad, don't re-sign Yuki.
Well, yeah, but...
Which I don't want to happen, by the way. I want Yuki to be re-signed.
I agree. I do want to see Yuki again. But I just don't think it's the world's craziest idea. If Alpine want to shell out for him, I think getting Pierre out of his contract a year early could make a lot of sense. by that same token, Alpine could do the same thing. They could just put a junior in the seat for a year, just as a sort of a seat warmer for Pierre to come out next year or something. But I do feel like Pierre has a super, super strong sort of eye on that Alpine seat, either for next year or for 2024. Man, it's spicy.
Yeah, we still like. It's so strange, right? Like the stuff in Formula One, we're like just over halfway, and then you got all these people that are just like, I'm not here next year, like, but I'm gonna keep going, right? Like it's such a strange headspace that some of these guys must get in when they're in this situation. It's very weird. Last thing,
as
Audi.
if that was not enough.
Yeah, Audi have confirmed they will be making F1 power units from the 2026 regulation change. Yeah. So there is a bunch of regulation changes. I think there's some in 2023, right? Smaller stuff. I believe
it's small stuff. I think it's really the regulations, I would assume, are going to be relatively stable between now and 2026. Likely some car changes here and there, but I think 2026 is the time where the engines are going to be majorly overhauled with much more of a focus on the electrification side, although they will still be turbo hybrid, but they're getting rid of some of the more complex
Is it renewable fuel too? Like they're going for a more renewable fuel? Because I think between now and 26, it's going to be refinements on the 22 car design.
Yeah.
And then 26, there is, I believe, changes to the car chassis, as well as the biggest thing being the engines, right? Like,
yes, My thought would be that we're probably going to see like some kind of like medium tweak of these cars in like 2-3 years, like halfway through the cycle, and then probably another like medium tweak in 2026. But it seems like the big deal in 2026 is going to be more so on the engine side. They've talked a lot about they want it to be more raceable, and blah blah blah. But clearly, the 2022 regs have been very, very helpful. So it's a brand new time for manufacturers to get on board. Clearly, Audi have already sort of thrown their hat into the ring as a power unit manufacturer, and they're totally going to end up buying most of Sauber and kick Alfa Romeo out.
No, they're not kicking Alfa Romeo out.
Well, they're Alfa bailing.
Yes. So the next part of this, so Audi have said, we will make engines from 2026. We will be an engine supplier. So I guess maybe they're hoping they can try and snag someone, right? As well as the bigger plan, it seems, is that they will become the title sponsor of Sauber. And Alfa Romeo has already announced that at the end of 2023, they are ending their relationship with Sauber. I have a question for you that I don't know if you can answer.
Yeah.
Why are they called Alfa Romeo, the team?
So Sauber has been one of the independents in Formula One for 25 years, for quite some time. And they have kind of had relationships, like I believe they had a tie-up with BMW in the 2000s, but they've been largely independent that whole time. Now, Alfa Romeo basically bought in as a title sponsor. So even though the team is called Alfa Romeo, it's not a true works team, right? The way that Alpine is, or that Mercedes.
Because this is why are Red Bull not called Oracle Racing?
Yeah, exactly, because that's a sponsor.
Right? But they're the title sponsor because they are Red Bull Oracle or like Mercedes Petronas. So what is so specific about Sauber that they actually give the naming rights away of their team completely?
An extra zero on the check.
Okay, cool. I was just checking that it wasn't more than that. Like I got a little bit confused.
It was a little bit because Sauber are also using Ferrari power units, and obviously Ferrari and Alfa are all under the same sort of Stellantis umbrella. So I believe that there were a few things there, and obviously that was when Leclerc came into Formula One, and that was his seat for I think the first year he was in. So I think about it as I think a sponsor plus, like a title sponsor plus kind of arrangement. But the Sauber team has remained largely independent as far as the running and stuff. They basically just sold the name of their team essentially. And so I think it makes a lot of sense for Audi to come in and scoop up that team. The rumor is something like they're going to buy something like 80% of Sauber and turn it into a full works team. But right now they've just announced being an engine supplier. But come on, we know.
Well,
we know
they have announced that they're an engine supplier, but not that they haven't said who their customers are. And so it seems like I wouldn't be surprised if in 2024 they become the title sponsor and start the program because what on earth would Sauber do for 3 years? Right? What are they going to do? Right? So you've got to assume. My assumption is they will become Audi racing in 2024, and then by 2026 they are no longer using the Ferrari engine. They will be using an Audi engine.
Yes.
But then the next part is Porsche. Right? Because it's also rumored that Porsche will be an engine supplier, even though they are the same company, right?
Yes, or they're owned by the Volkswagen Group, but they are kind of separate divisions. But yes, they are all part of the same corporate umbrella. But okay, so the thing with the Porsche thing, though, it's a little different just because they're almost certainly working with Red Bull powertrains, right? Which is essentially what
that's the expectation. Somebody has to. Well, Red Bull said they were going to go out and do it on their own, right?
And they are, but probably with a giant pile of Porsche money behind them, because right now they've taken a lot of that sort of Honda backbone. They're building the facility in Milton Keynes, right next to the main Red Bull factory. And the heavy expectation, in fact, there was a leaked regulatory filing in Morocco saying that Porsche is potentially going to buy 50% of Red Bull Racing, period. So not just the engine side, like the actual team.
So they will probably become Porsche Red Bull, right?
I would be shocked if they're not Porsche Red Bull. I mean, it's essentially an open secret at this point.
I would like that. That sounds good.
It does. And
There's
also
something
you can
about
imagine,
that.
and I feel like something that might make you really happy. Fast forward to 2025, 2026, Porsche is now, a 50% stakeholder in Red Bull. You got to imagine there might be some high up personnel changes that might have been, I don't know, a decade overdue.
Oh, no, I doubt it. No. If you're Porsche buying into Red Bull, would you get rid of what will probably be a 2-3 time world champion team principal?
I mean, do you think that Porsche are going to have the patience to deal with Helmut and Christian? Do you think that the button-down German team are going to deal with Christian saying all these ridiculous things in interviews and on Drive to Survive? We'll see.
As long as they're winning.
It's gonna get spicy.
As long as they're winning. Like, what you buy into a winning team and get rid of the formula. But I will say, this made me think. I was thinking about this yesterday because I couldn't watch the race live. That's why we had to postpone the episode. But so I watched the highlights last night, which was like the highlight package, it's like a 45-minute highlight thing. And just watching, and we'll talk about the race in a bit more. Just watching Max, right, doing this thing.
Yep.
I don't think personally, maybe this is my bias. I don't necessarily think he's going to do like what Lewis did, and I think there's a reason for this. I think he is going to be absolutely dominant until 2025, 2026 or whatever. And that could shake his dominance, is this new engine. That would be my concern.
That's a bold... You think Max is just locked in? You think the next 4 or 5 years just max time all the time?
No. I don't think he's going to win 4 years in a row. But
but you think he'll be on top?
He will be as close to top as you could be, right? Yeah. And I think we'll see 2 more maybe world championship runs, like actual world championships at least for Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
If I was him, I would be worried about this engine change.
Yeah, it's a long time though, man. It's a long time.
When do Honda actually leave? Isn't it this year?
Technically, they're already gone, but they're like supporting and they're doing some they're doing the maintenance and it's a little nebulous. Technically it's now Red Bull Racing powertrain, but Honda are still essentially just sort of keeping the engines running and maybe even I think assembling them at the factory.
And it's changing though, right? Like there's like a staged thing. I think 2023 they're doing something where it's becoming Red Bull powertrain. And it
is already Red Bull powertrain right now.
It is now?
So technically, on the entry listing, it is showing as a Red Bull powertrain, even though it's Honda and everything but name, essentially, at this point. The Honda deal has clearly been very chaotic for them on the way out. I think they have given up everything and gotten nothing out of it, and Red Bull have reaped all of the rewards.
So basically, I'm not necessarily saying that it is going to spell the end of a potential Max Verstappen dominance. What I'm saying is I think that's the only thing that would.
Maybe let's talk about this when we discuss the race. I have some thoughts.
All right. Shall we pit?
I'm ready to go for an aggressive 2 stops. I mean, no,
double stack
strategy.
Double stack.
We're gonna double stack it. All right, is everyone ready?
I'm ready.
You got some water.
Yep.
You got loosened up. You did your stretches this morning. You got your wheel guns ready to not jam. Okay, ready, set, and go.
This episode of The Back Markers is brought to you by Mint Mobile. After years of fine print contracts and often paying too much money with big wireless providers, it's no wonder we're skeptical about new deals. So when you learn Mint Mobile offers premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month, you might wonder, what's the catch? But once you learn about them and their service, it makes sense. There isn't a catch. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For people looking for extra savings, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying one for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And what's great is you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same number along with all your existing contacts. So it's as easy as switching to Mint Mobile and getting premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. And Austin's mentioned before, they just send that package to you. You just pop out your old SIM, put it in your new one, activate it, easy to go, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's super seamless. And like we've talked about many times, because Mint has been a terrific sponsor over the years, it is not only seamless, but also it is a no-brainer. You are going to save money almost certainly based on switching over. You get the same service, same coverage, everything like that. Like, it really, really does make sense.
To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/backmarkers. That's mintmobile.com/backmarkers. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/backmarkers. Our thanks to Mint Mobile for their support of this show and Relay FM. Time.
Mike, can you see this? 142.87. Oh! The last time was 142.84.
Oh!
I maybe took a little bit of time of mine. I'll take the L on that one. I could have been a little bit more succinct because you were very crisp.
We had an issue with the front left.
Yeah. My gun got stuck for just 1 second. So 142.87.
All right. We have another repeat sponsor here now, which is Trade, and so I'm gonna see if I can beat this time. All
okay.
right?
So the car's coming back in. You got the wheels. You got everything ready to go.
Ready to go.
Right. 3, 2, 1. Go.
This episode of The Back Markers is brought to you by Trade Coffee. Every day is precious, and we should all make the most of every single one. They shouldn't start with mediocre grocery store coffee. You deserve to start your day with the best coffee you can make for yourself at home from Trade Coffee. Trade Coffee is a coffee subscription service unlike anything you've tried before because they partner with top independent roasters to freshly roast and send the best coffees in the US directly to your home on your preferred schedule. Your trade experience can be as simple or sophisticated as you want. If you know what you're looking for already, you can quickly select from a curated collection from roast, flavor profile, brewing method, and more. Their team of experts do all the work, taste testing hundreds of coffees from across the US every month to curate over 450 exceptional coffees that make the cut. Or if you want something curated just for you, then take a minute and complete Trade's coffee questionnaire and you'll be perfectly matched from an expert profile with your perfect coffee and fresh bag of beans. They'll be on the way to you. I think that this quiz is super awesome. It's very, very simple to fill out. They don't ask you a bunch of questions that are really complicated, and then you get excellent coffee. I have been so happy with everything Trade has sent me. Trade is the easiest way to get your very best tasting coffee delivered fresh just when you need it. And you've got nothing to lose because Trade guarantees you'll love your first bag. And if not, they'll work with you to replace it for free. So if you want to support small businesses and brew the best cup you've ever made at home, it's time to try Trade Coffee. Right now, Trade is offering our listeners a total of $30 off your first order plus free shipping at drinktrade.com/backmarkers. That's drinktrade.com/backmarkers for $30 off your subscription to the best coffees in the US. Our thanks to Trade Coffee for their support of this show and Relay FM.
Time.
Okay.
146.32.
Bad stops today.
I was less than a second off. Look, in a minute 45 versus a minute 46, that's pretty close. I wasn't going to say anything during the ad spot, but also Trade is delicious. And you're totally right about that quiz. I love how fast it was because, like, I like coffee, but I'm definitely, like, I'm not as sophisticated as I should. So Yeah.
I like
Terrific.
that it's both. They offer for those that know what they want and those that need help.
Yep.
That's what I like
Yeah.
about it.
I went through and I was like, I don't know, help me out. And they're like, sure, we got you.
Mm-hmm.
And everything has been really, really solid.
I don't think
All
it's
right.
up yet, but soon there is a. This is no joke. There is a Mike Hurley curated collection that's going to be on trade of the stuff that I like.
Yo!
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So,
All
if
right,
you
I'm
want
going to order the mic.
Oh, it's there now. It's there now.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, yo, okay. Okay, well, we got to add that to the next ad spot then. The Mike Hurley
it'll be
collection?
there.
Come on.
Yeah. Well, it's actually right now it's the Backmarks collection, so maybe they did it for stuff that we
Is
both
it
use.
really?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is incredible.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Oh, okay. I'm very excited. Okay, we'll talk about it after the show. We'll talk about it after the show.
Okay.
We gotta get back. Gotta get back on the road. We're getting a little
right.
distracted by everything. Should we catch
Spa.
up? Yes, that was it was a race that happened. That was very.
Everyone took penalties up and down the field. Penalties left, right, and center. Everyone replaced their entire cars. Interesting, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it does make sense because during the the off season or the mid season break, there's a lot of development going on. Also, Spa is a track which is very, very sort of demanding on power units, so you want to have as many horsepower as you can, and it's a track which is pretty easy to pass on. So I think it was a little bit of a unique sort of mix of factors that made it a very, very good place to take a penalty like this. But yeah, I mean, it was 6, 7 vehicles that all took penalties of various states. Even I know a couple people who didn't take it during qualifying, like Pierre, I think, started from the pit lane because he had some electrical stuff. But tons and tons of people were making.
Most importantly, Max and Sean.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. So it was really interesting through qualifying because Max smashed it, right? He was absolutely ridiculously fast all weekend. Clearly got pole, but it didn't really matter because, he's still starting from I think 14th or something like that. So yeah, I know a lot of people are a little bit complaining about the fact that there's so many penalties, but if you're going to take a penalty at any point throughout the entire year, Spa is probably the place to do it. So I don't think it's like a regular kind of thing.
My issue with the penalty system in its current iteration is the way that they apply them and how nonsensical it becomes. I think it was at least one of either Sainz or Verstappen. They had like a 40 place penalty because of all the things that they're doing. Well, there's only 20 places on the grid, so what? I feel like just make it more simple.
Yeah.
Because if they can stack the amount of repairs that they want to do on the car. If you think that's worth 40 places, then penalize them in 2 races. You know what? It's just, or just say, if you do this, you go to the back of the grid. Just simplify it more, I think.
Yeah. Well, because I think right now, if you're going to take a penalty for one thing, you might as well just change all the parts you can because you've already been penalized. And that way you have those parts in your sort of allotment so you can use them later in the year.
So that feels like an unfair advantage that all teams take at that point if you're going to have this system. So I feel like if you want this system where you apply penalties to specific parts, then they should roll over, I feel like. Or, which I wouldn't actually like that, but that's kind of how I approach it with what they're providing us. Otherwise, just say anything that you do within any of these, you just go to the back of the grid, and that's
I agree. I think that's a lot simpler. But there's different tiers. It's certain things are less minor, so it's 10 plays, blah blah blah. But regardless, I think it was a how should we say an interesting race. I think a very exciting race, mostly because Max blasted by everyone. It just left everyone absolutely behind.
Started 14th and won it, and just won it by 17 seconds over Sergio.
And he was clearly not pushing. He had a huge gap. I mean, it was less than halfway through the race when he was already dominating and well into the lead, right? I mean, it's just one of those things where Red Bull took a huge step this weekend to the point where I think everyone, especially Ferrari, are like, what? I mean, there's certainly an argument to be made that this was a track that was uniquely well suited to the Red Bull. There's certain things with ride heights and whatnot. You've got several corners, several kind of parts of the track where you do need more ride height because you're going to bottom out the cars. So a lot of things that sort of really were leaning into Red Bull's favor. But the speed of both the Red Bulls, but really of Max, was unbelievable. This was one of the most dominant races that I think ever watched, and that includes a lot of those Mercedes drives, a lot of those Red Bull drives. It was ridiculous.
How far in front would he have been if he started first?
He would have lapped the field. I
mean,
honestly,
it looks
if he was
like
trying,
it, right?
Yeah.
He
it
was 17
ridiculous.
seconds ahead of his own teammate,
Yeah.
which also
Who
like
started second.
yeah, that kind of like this isn't the first time we've seen this, right? But like I
Yeah.
feel like I can't get my head around how can Max be 18 seconds faster than Sergio?
Well, the thing is, though, so the way that Spa is, I mean, it requires a lot of commitment, a lot. Like, you got to be one with that car. And we've seen that Max
Right.
has enormous commitment, enormous confidence, whereas Sergio is a good driver, friend of the show, friend of the podcast, but clearly not. Look, I don't.
The
I don't wanna
podcast
upset
didn't
Sergio,
exist
right?
at that point, but nevertheless.
Regardless, great friend, our number
Great
one
friend,
fan.
great friend, great fan.
But I just don't think that anyone but Max can really live with that, or at least certainly compared to Checo, right? Checo does a good job, but like, it's just the amount of time that Max was making up by committing, carrying so much speed, being right on the knife edge, lap after lap after lap, is incredible, right? I mean, it's easy to say, when you look back on the older days and you see, like legends like Schumacher and Senna, and you see what they were able to do. And I think it is really hard not to argue that Max is not very quickly joining those kind of ranks when you
definitely.
see the performances, right? I mean, it's like we're experiencing what I think is the greatest driver on the grid right now. I think Max is driving at a different level than anyone else, really, a more consistent level. He is obviously paired with the best car. He is operating at the top of his game. It might not be the most exciting thing to see him dominating the season, which he has very clearly dominated. I mean, it's basically a foregone conclusion already that Max has won this championship, right? I mean, he can take a few weeks off and still easily win.
Yeah, no one can catch him now. Well, technically someone can catch him, but realistically no one can catch him.
Yes.
Right?
If he shows up every week and, I don't know, pays any attention at all, he wins this championship, right? Like, it's not particularly close. But I think it's one of those things where it's just, I want to just try to appreciate how cool it is to see this dominance, but also I expect all the shenanigans to start and people will be like, Red Bull are cheating. Red Bull are going too fast. Max needs to have 20 pounds of lead weight in the back of his car to make it even. I don't know.
It was very clear this time that, Max Verstappen destroyed Charles Leclerc. Do you see that video? So,
oh, yeah.
Charles Leclerc had to pit very early because, like, his front right was on fire. And it turns out that what appears to have happened is one of the tear-offs, so the plastic things that they tear off their helmets and let go, went into Charles' car. It was Max that did it, is what the F1 social media team seems to have uncovered, which is just like a really hilarious thing. I thought I had heard that you're only allowed to do that on certain parts of the track when there aren't cars around you.
Oh, interesting.
Now, I thought that I'd heard this. If that's not a rule, it should be a rule. Because if there's cars around you and it can go in the car and therefore force you to pit, like, I think there needs to be some kind of consideration on that. But anyway, going back to what you were saying about Max and Red Bull right now.
Yeah.
I think the big problem with this season is Red Bull do not have actual competition. Like, Max does not have actual competition, which I think is different to prior seasons. I think Mercedes are the problem here. Like, if anybody wants to say this season is boring, they should point and say it's Mercedes' fault because they should be at their previous level. They messed up big time, and so now Red Bull's running away with it because Ferrari, God love them, can't do it. They can't do it, right? Like, they can have the car, they can have the drivers, but there's just something in the middle, and they just can't make it work. Where that's where Mercedes' issue right now is they don't have the car. They have the team, they have the drivers, right? They have because they are just pulling everything out of this setup that they've got, right? Like, looking at the order this week, considering how poor the car seemed in qualifying and in free practice again, the fact that George split the Ferraris,
terrific, and really came close to overhauling Carlos, right?
Yeah,
I mean, if he didn't have that one wobble.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, there's just Ferrari's just not got the stuff right now.
Yeah.
And I think so. I think that's why we're seeing that's not why we're seeing Red Bull at the top, but it's why we're seeing Red Bull's dominance, I think, because they do not have their actual real challenger to challenge them.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's clear that Adrian Newey and the Red Bull team absolutely smashed it this year with the car. And after the last season, they're very sharp as a team, right? Which I think is
Yep.
really where Ferrari's kind of been let down. That they kind of seem like they haven't been in a really intense title competition in a while. And I mean, I think they've had their sort of structural issues basically forever. And so it's one of these things where Red Bull has literally everything going for them. Terrific car, great engine, excellent driver, just super sharp team. I mean, it's like the dream team. It's the perfect package, and I think that's why we're seeing such dominance. Whereas Ferrari have been, I mean, I would say this is almost the only weekend of the year where Red Bull were clearly just way faster, right? I think there's always been like, yes, they've been very fast, but Ferrari's usually been in the conversation. This week, Ferrari did not have a chance, right? When Max can start from 14th and finish 27 seconds ahead of the lead Ferrari, yeah. Like that's saying something. Like
Because if
it's
next
wild.
year, if Mercedes can actually do what they need to do,
Yeah.
George and Lewis can't be touched, in my opinion. Like the two of them together, like I think it's going to be. We will see a lot of 1-2s, 2-3s from them. It will be like Lewis and Valtteri, but I think better.
If you give them a car which is far superior, if you give them a car which is on equal footing with the Red Bull, I think Max is absolutely right in there. I don't know, man.
He's in there.
Max.
He's in there. But what I'm saying is the team's dominance. Because I don't think Red Bull as a team will remain as dominant.
I mean, you say that. I mean, the last couple of formula sort of changes we had, and sort of the V8 era of Red Bull just dominating. Then we switched to the turbo hybrid. Mercedes dominated the whole time. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a guarantee here, but I do think there's really something to be said about if you start off with this new sort of vehicle and you're doing really well, it's almost like the odds are that you're going to hold that momentum and continue to stretch that lead out. Because think about it, Red Bull are clearly still developing this car, but they already have this one figured out. They're working on the next year's car. You know that they are. Whereas it feels like Ferrari, especially Mercedes, are like, oh God, we got to fix this one before we can even think about the next one because we don't know what's going on.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm saying if, right? Like I'm saying like if Mercedes were able to pull out a good enough car, I believe that they have the strongest pair. We spoke about this on the show in the past. I think that George and Lewis are the strongest pairing for like matching each other on the grid right now. And so
I agree. I agree. It's wild, man.
Lewis, let's go through our little bits that we do because then we could talk about something, right? Favorite back marker of the race. I want to say there's just one of my favorite races points this entire race. I think it was on lap 1 or 2. Lance Stroll took a corner, went into the gravel, power slides across the gravel and saves it. I do not know how he did that. And so, like, for me, Lance Stroll is my back marker of the race because that was an absurd move that he was able to control that. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he did it. So he gets it from me.
Man, I got to give it to our boy Albon. Technically, I know not a back marker, P10, blah, blah, blah. But, like, he Instagrammed after the race a photo of his car photoshopped to be the full width of the track. And I've never liked the photo harder.
I didn't see that. Oh, I need to go see that.
Absolutely amazing. I mean, the fact is that Williams was the fastest in a straight line, but kind of bad elsewhere, and he executed a perfect strategy, early stops, basically kept as many people who weren't like Max. Yeah, that photo is absolutely...
I'm showing it on the video, but go find Alex's his Instagram. It's hilarious. Yeah, he had a fantastic race, right? But and I don't doubt you there at all. But there was just that moment from Lance Stroll was just like, I don't know. It really impressed me. I just thought it looked really cool, and I just thought it was awesome.
How about underperformer of the race?
Oh, come on, Lewis Hamilton, man. What are you doing? Oh, I was so annoyed. Annoyed by that.
I mean,
so annoyed by it.
Mistakes happen. I get it.
Yeah, and it was, right? Like, that's,
the only good thing I could say about it is that it was clearly Lewis's fault, and Lewis is the one who paid the price. I know Fernando was carrying some damage, but clearly didn't seem to hurt him that much. So it sort of netted out fine.
Let's be real. Like, Fernando, he came in fifth after Leclerc's penalty. I don't think he was going to get higher than that. like realistically.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like Lewis messed up. Lewis paid the price.
Yep.
Fair
Which is the
enough,
best
right?
way, right? Like that's how I always want that stuff to go down. That
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if you know, this sport, so much of it is just about searching for those spots. And Lewis went for it, and he said like he just didn't. Alonso was in his blind spot, but he should have never gone for it. And because he did, he paid the price big time. And
Yeah.
I was
Whereas,
just really
like,
annoyed by it. It just frustrated me a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Latifi looping it by himself and taking Valtteri out was really unfortunate. I think that's like yet another example of like, man,
That one frustrated me more
yeah, that was bad.
because I will say I think it was Ocon got out of the way of that, and I don't know how he reacted so fast. Like
Ocon
that
had
was
an
incredible.
amazing race.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
like my favorite thing of the race. We'll swing back around to Lewis again. My favorite thing of the race. There was a moment of racing between Vettel, Ocon, and Gasly. Some of the best racing I've seen this season. It was
Absolutely.
incredible to watch the three of them go against each other. It was so good.
Ocon made, I think, a couple of absolutely amazing moves, where he's just picking up, two cars in one corner, two cars in two corners, like crazy. And it's super, committed, confident kind of stuff. Like terrific drive from Ocon. But yeah, I mean, for me, I'm going to lean a little bit more toward Latifi for my underperformer just because, man, get out of F1. I know that seems mean. I know that but just dude, this is not working. Like this is just not working.
What Lewis did was bad.
Yeah.
Everyone bashes into people all the time, but this is just what Latifi is known for at this point, right?
Exactly.
And that,
right? Like,
you haven't got.
Exactly, right? Like you can look at Lewis and like, oh, he's done something dumb like this once in what, 30, 40, 50 races. Latifi, it's been a week since he had his last thing or whatever. Like it's just whatever. I don't get into it. It's gonna upset me, but yes, I think Latifi is the thing. But yeah, I actually will agree with you though on like my favorite part of the race. I mean, it was great to see Max slice through the field. I was a little sad that he like got all the way to the lead at like lap 17 or whatever it was. But yeah, I think there was good. I mean, DRS is a little bit strong, but there was some terrific moves throughout the race, but especially Ocon just blasting by everyone, especially because we have to remember he started at the back of the grid, or at least he had, his penalties. And the fact that he came all the way forward and finished 7th, which doesn't sound super impressive, but considering where he came from, super impressive. Like that was
super
very
good race. It was something I just wanted to touch on real quick, that like the Alonso Lewis thing. Like Alonso's super mad, right? On the right, super mad on the radio, and like made this comment about Lewis of like he doesn't know how to drive unless he's a second ahead and in front.
Yeah.
And then Alonso gave he was talking afterwards and said like, I actually agree with him. He says I don't think everything we say on the radio should be broadcast.
Yeah.
In that moment, he's angry, right?
Yep.
Because he's now not only is Lewis smashed into him, he's now like, is my race over as well? And so he said something nasty about Lewis, right?
Yeah.
But afterwards is like when he's calmed down, he's like, look, it was a stupid thing that happened, but it was a mistake. It was like a racing mistake. And like Lewis paid the price for it, right? Like he was out and I carried on. And it's like, I don't think that all of this stuff should necessarily be listenable. Because like he says, I am talking to my mechanics. I'm talking to my engineers, right?
Yeah.
And so it was just this little thing where I was like, because then it becomes this whole thing. It was like, oh, drama. Oh, and it's just like, I just think it's stupid.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, it's like, in a lot of sport, these are elite athletes, they're heat of the moment, some crazy thing just went down. I think almost anyone could be forgiven for saying some things in the moment. But that being said, it's tough. I mean, it's tough. Especially someone like Alonso who has been through, 20 seasons, should probably know to keep his finger off the radio button when he's mad. Like, it's just probably a good idea to just yell it to yourself in the helmet without the radio button. But yeah, regardless.
Well, but I mean, like it's something he said at the end of, you know what I mean? So like, it's not like he fired up the radio to start ranting. You know what I mean? Like they're like talking to him, checking he's okay. So I just think it's weird.
I was Sherlock in the comments. Alonso went for a Twitter rant on the radio.
Yeah.
Could not agree more.
But the difference being, like, the Twitter rant is a thing you're choosing to tell everyone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more like he went on an iMessage rant on the radio.
A WhatsApp rant?
Yeah, because he's having that conversation with someone, right? So I don't know. Driver of the day, Max Verstappen, no argument.
Max Verstappen. Yeah, like, I mean, I think you could make a small argument for Ocon that I think he did a terrific job.
But it's a
like,
small argument,
Max,
right? Like
small argument.
Yeah.
In any other race, like if Max would have started like P1 or P2, I would have actually said Ocon.
Of course.
But the fact that Max came all the way through the field, and I think one of the things that was also really impressive about that drive was how effortless it looked.
Yeah.
Right, like he was making clean passes. He
No
wasn't
DRS.
hyper aggressive.
Like he looked like he had DRS when he didn't have DRS. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, like it was a world champion kind of drive where he wasn't overcooking it. He was managing it. Like everything was under control at all times. He got a little testy at Checo for not letting him by for like one lap. That was it. Like nothing else even phased him remotely.
Yep.
It was effortless. I truly
calm,
one of the most dominant.
controlled. It would look like he's out for a Sunday drive. It was nothing to him.
Yep.
World champion.
World champion.
He's our world champion.
2 times and probably won't be the last.
We're going to the worst race in the calendar this weekend.
What?
The orange
What are you
smoke.
talking about?
I can't stand it. I can't stand it. It annoys me so much.
Soon.
It annoys me so much, the orange smoke. And it's going to be... You will not be able to see the racetrack.
Yeah, you're right. You're definitely right.
They should ban it. I don't know.
If you bought tickets for the race this weekend, get a refund because you're going to miss the first 5 laps just looking at smoke.
Yeah, and the last and the middle, anytime he goes by, like I don't know why they allow it. Like it shouldn't be allowed.
Actually, I agree because it actually is like enough where like it rolls onto the track to the point where it does actually cause a problem. Like I know it's a very festive kind of thing, but you're right. It is actually kind of weird but I mean, what are they going to do? Search everyone for? Actually, no.
They're not searching for other stuff. I bet they search for alcohol, right? Like
that's a good point. Oh, so apparently Sherlock in the comments is saying that they've banned it, but it's smuggled in. I don't know, man. I don't know.
But then they're not policing it properly because if that's the case, then anything could happen at an F1 race, right? So they've got to get rid of it. They have to get rid of it. They have to find a way. People are telling us in the chat now it wasn't allowed. I'm sure it wasn't. They've got to do something better about this, right? Because I think it is becoming a safety risk at this point for the drivers. And also, as a viewer, I just don't want to look at an orange tint on the screen for 2 hours.
You prefer some silver smoke going by?
All I'm going to say is it's only ever one color.
Very true.
You don't see red.
True.
You don't see red smoke. You don't see silver smoke. You don't see blue smoke.
A little bit of red.
It's all okay.
At Monza,
maybe at Monza, but this orange smoke is at every goddamn race.
Everywhere. Yep.
Right. It's at every race. If this was only at Zandvoort, fine.
Yeah.
But what annoys me is it's at every race.
Mike, are you trying to say that Max Verstappen has fans who are
No, it's McLaren, clearly,
perhaps?
right? Surely it's McLaren fans, right? That's my favorite thing. Lando does this like every race, takes pictures of the Dutch fans. It's like, oh, McLaren fans.
Oh, man. Wild
We'll be
times.
back.
We're going to be
live this weekend. Just a few days for Zandvoort for the Dutch Grand Prix.
Can we pre-tape that? I think we can pre-tape it. And we'll just say how Max won by 23 seconds, and then we'll talk about silly season.
I predict a Max Verstappen DNF.
Whoa! Okay. All right. We're going there. I think he'll be fine. I think he'll win by a lot.
I have absolutely zero reason for this, but just sometimes people always do worse where it matters most. I think of Charles Leclerc, right? Cannot finish Monaco, stuff like that. So
I'm excited. I think we got some interesting races because I think Spa, you've got Zandvoort, Monza, all very, very different tracks. I'm hoping to see Leclerc actually finish a race in a podium position. That'd be a nice start. But it's gonna be very spicy. Just a couple days away. We gotta get hyped up. Gotta get ready. It's gonna come thick and fast now.
We'll be back then. Don't forget, in the meantime, at Backmarkers Live on Twitter. We're Backmarkers Live for the YouTube video of the show, backmarkers.fm for the audio. Until next time, say goodbye, Austin Evans.
Goodbye, and good luck to everyone who breathes in orange smoke this weekend.
All right. We got to run. I got to go try and see if I can put this together before my next show in 20 minutes.
Sounds good. Well, good luck. I will get everything uploaded. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, we'll be back on Sunday, everyone, and we'll hang out a bit more often than two as we normally do. So,
yeah, sorry for having a off weird time. I may have forgotten to put this episode on.
We had said we were going to be
calendar.
doing this at a certain time, which we ended up not being able to do because Austin forgot.
Yes. I did not put it on my calendar. I texted Maggie. I was like, "Hey, what time are we recording?" He's like, "Oh, Monday at 8 or whatever." I'm like, "Oh, I'm on a plane at that time."
I will
Can we
say,
move that?
I would take 5% of the blame because we always shared a calendar, and I should have put this on our shared calendar.
I should
5%.
also probably pay attention. Okay,
Sure, that's why I take 5. 95% is on you, 5% is on me.
checks out. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you in just a few days.